With trade tensions mounting up between the global trade giants, now economic indices point to a dark cloud over other variables in the world market, especially in the oil market, as the September 1st deadline approaches for the imposition of a 10% tariff on $300 billion worth of Chinese imports by the United States government. It's another interesting week on the portfolio, reaching you from the stables of NTA News 24 Abuja. I'm Chimobi Walter Naji. And this week, we are looking inwards to x-ray the potentials having a comprehensive data would have on Nigeria's extractive industry. But first, let's join Comfort Amodu for a summary of happenings in the business world. Hello, Comfort. Tell us the reaction coming from Nigeria's Apex Bank on the issue of granting access to foreign exchange for goods imports.
Yes, Chimobi, you did recall that recently President Muhammadu Buhari requested that the Central Bank of Nigeria stop the provision forex for food importation into the country. This many believe would invariably increase smuggling, cost of imported food items, and lead to high food inflation. CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele has allayed the fears of the people, saying President Buhari's directive is in the logic of the Apex Bank's foreign exchange policy management. He explained that the Apex Bank had commenced in 2016 with a ban on the importation of 43 food and non-food items into the country.
To be honest, we would aggressively go more into the list of items that are being imported into the country and that we think can be produced in Nigeria. And we would, and I would like to stress that we would ensure that more of these items get onto the list of items that are going to be restricted from accessing foreign exchange in the Nigerian banking industry, not just from central bank source.
And similarly, the CBN governor also allayed fears over the recent ruling by a British court awarding a $9 billion fine against Nigeria in favor of Process and Industrial Development Limited in a case of breach of contracts. Speaking on the possible impact of the implementation of such a ruling on the country's foreign reserves, he says he appreciates key players for their support and assured local and foreign investors that there was no cause for worry. And our data from the Debt Management Office shows that 6 geopolitical zones of the country were exposed to a total domestic debt of 3.97 trillion naira as of March 31st. It says the South-South states are indebted to 949.4 billion naira, while the Southeast owes 303 billion naira, whereas Ondo has the least domestic debt in the region, accounting for 5.48% with 56.96 billion naira. The South-South region has a domestic debt burden of 949.4 billion naira, accounting for 23.91% of the country's subnational domestic debt. The North Central region, comprising Kwara, Kogi, Nasarawa, Niger, Plateau and Benue states, as well as the Federal Capital Territory, has a domestic debt burden of 648.63 billion naira, accounting for 16.34% of the country's subnational domestic debt. And that's it on the news. I'm Comfort Amodu. Stay tuned for more on the portfolio with Chimobi.
Thank you very much, Comfort. Let's quickly hit the ground running now. The Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NITI, recently sent out a press statement highlighting its readiness to work closely with the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation, to promote integrity in data collection, validation, and of course management on revenues from extractive industries. Now, this was against the backdrop of the continued desire by industry key players to have concrete data of miners and mining activities in the nation's mining sector for optimum performance of the sector and for adequate planning and management. Now, I have with me in the studios to discuss a miner, Mr. Patrick Odiegu, to look at these issues raised from that MOU. Very good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much, Walter. It's nice
to
be
here.
Let's
start first of all with trying to if you can give us an idea of what how much data can impact on the sector if we have adequate data, coming out from the mining sector?
Thank you, Walter. Data is extremely essential in development of solid mineral. Data is akin to business plan. You can't do proper business without a business plan. So for a miner, without proper exploration data, you simply stand no chance to exploit in a very organized form. Mining Act recognizes the importance of data, hence the establishment of Nigeria Mining Cadastral Office. Nigeria Mining Cadastral Office is tasked not only issuance of licenses, but they equally has a demand on mining companies during the exploration stage to be submitting their data information. Every 6 months, they are required to submit result of their previous 6 months activities. So that in itself helps in getting information as to what are their findings. You may also note that we have Nigerian Geological Survey Agency. It's an agency of the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development. They have a primary responsibility in acquiring geodata information around the country. And those informations are there for miners to procure, because you have baseline information and then you need to go to the site and carry out more detailed exploration information. So what the Auditor General and NAT is planning to do is quite laudable. No nation can develop with clear mandate, clear, straightforward development plan without having adequate data.
I would want to get into looking at how much Nigeria loses, because of lack of data. But first of all, Nigeria obviously, if not for these efforts that are coming up here and there, doesn't even have enough data as to what solid mineral deposits that we have in the country and the worth of these solid mineral deposits. Is the miners organization doing anything to at least help out in this regard?
Once again, Walter, I think we need to have a good understanding as to what exactly is solid mineral development. What is really mining? Mining is a strong economic activity. Mining is it's extremely important in national development, because most of the things that we consume daily stem from mining, stem from the mining site. They could be in primary form, they could be in secondary form, or in a tertiary form. Now, what do I mean by primary form? Primary form indicates an ore. You mine an ore. What do you do with the ore? You process the ore through mining and processing. That is the secondary form. That processing gives you, in a case, lead ore. When you process lead ore, you get lead metal. Now, when you have lead metal, let's call that the secondary aspect. So, it is extremely crucial that we understand how these things work in situating solid mineral properly. Now, solid mineral in this country is not monopolized.
Yeah.
It's not a federal government or state government or local government business monopoly. It has been opened up for private sector participation. Now, if you intend to do mining, you will first of all, there are prerequisite requirements that you must comply with to be able to get the mining license. Mining license is not given without reserve being established. So what happens is that you will come in and apply for exploration license. Now, on the word exploration, it gives you permit to go and find and search and see if you can discover something. Now, when you discover something, you can come back. By then, you know the quality, you know the grade, and you obviously know how to extract it. At what depth is the deposit? what kind of instrument or what kind of systems are you going to put in place to economically exploit those ore? Because it's only the one that pays money that you're interested in. It's not just you're not doing road construction or house building. You are removing waste to extract value. Those value will be monetized. Now, if government doesn't know what the business person knows, that creates a challenge. The challenge in that is that the state will lose revenue at the end of it. So it is important that the state has a good understanding as to what is happening in the sector.
When you were speaking, I listened very keenly, and I noticed a lot of sharp practices really happen in this sector by both licensed and non-licensed miners. Having this data, really, how can it help to reduce these sharp practices?
Yeah, obviously, when there is gap in information, people will exploit it majorly to their own advantage. But I think that as a responsible country, as a country that wants to be taken seriously, we must invest in our systems. You can't fold your hands and allow somebody to kill themselves in a mining site, and at the end of the day, you want to participate in the eating. I don't think it works that way. So government has a responsibility to understand what happens, what challenges the miners are going through. For example, some mining sites are not accessible. These are primarily government responsibility to ensure that you can gain access to your site, to ensure that there is water provision, to ensure there is electricity. It is government responsibility. People sometimes mix it up in our climb. They think that it's a CSR, corporate social responsibility. It is not. Corporate social responsibility comes in another form. In mining, there is something called CDA, Community Development Agreement, because mining should be about development. You just can't come and exploit, devastate the environment, take out the whole benefit, and then leave the villagers holding the shortest end of the stick. It's not sustainable. So we need to really have a good understanding and maybe stop vilifying the miners and understand what an average miner goes through, both licensed and non-licensed. Even those that are doing illegal mining, what exactly is illegal mining? Most times people say illegal mining. There is nothing like illegal mining. There is just lack of responsibility on the part of the state. There is no place in Nigeria that is not covered by a system. It could be through satellite or other systems. So most things that people get away in Nigeria is because the system is loose. No system should be permitted to be this loose. So if we want to be serious, then we must put investment. We must first of all make sure that the miners are given adequate training. It's important. If you don't train them, you probably won't know who they are. And if you don't know who they are, they will exploit in a very selfish manner. But at the end of the day, the money is still here, unless we are talking about foreign investors, which is another kettle of fish.
Yeah, just recently, because you just reminded me something, just recently, Nigeria was rated quite high, in international extractives industries transparency, issue of transparency in international extractives industries, as playing a very pivotal role in ensuring transparency in that sector. Is this still sustained? Is this still being sustained at this time?
It has been increased because the last 8 years, a lot has happened. During the, when Obia Ezekwesili was the Minister for Mines and Steel Development, then it was called Minister of Solid Mineral. The name has changed over time and it confuses people. But with the Mineral and Mining Act of 2007, a lot of things start changing. They start coming up with more innovative systems to know licenses management, how you stop overlapping. Those kind of institutional stuff actually helped in ensuring that there is good, adequate, fair play. Because the Mining Act says that first come, first serve. Assuming if you put license or application together at the same time, you can't put it at the same time. One must be 1 minute or 1 second more than the other. The register will show that. So those information helps in bringing credibility to the system. Once you have credibility, obviously integrity increases. Those integrity helps in reducing the sharp practices. Now, if you want to reduce it finally, which is possible, because no miner can mine 2 locations at the same time. So you are at a point, there's coordinate that limits you to where you are. Even those that are doing illegal mining, if the state mines officer are well funded, are well equipped, they will know what is happening in their respective states and bring those information to the center so that there is proper monitoring. Supervision and monitoring will always help in checkmating sharp practices. So, back to your question, I think transparency has increased because the state has started paying more attention, more closer attention, and more investment has come into the sector, which those investments can be questioned sometimes.
Okay, so let's talk about the co-relationships that we see between the agencies and then the national and sub-national players, in the issue of mining. At what point does the states begin to come in, to take responsibility of some of these challenges you talked about, infrastructure, access roads and all of that? At what point does the states begin to come in?
I think mining calls for collaboration, because if a miner is mining in a local government, he's impacting on the immediate local government, and that impact can also impact on the state, because revenue allocation formula says that every activity in the state has value coming at the back end of that. So it is to the interest of the state to pay closer attention to whosoever that is working. Now, some states in Nigeria are very active. Others are still not sure if they want to join the bandwagon. But let me put it in a very graphic form. States don't issue licenses, and they have been angling to start doing so. And I can, for some of us that really want to talk about development, it's not about who gives out the license. It's about who imparts and support the mines development, so that it can come on stream. If it does come on stream, everybody benefits in a more mechanized form. But if we will continue to allow lack of funding or lack of institutional support, which can come from states, local government, and federal, but majorly from federal government, because federal government, as it stands, is the only government body tasked with development of solid mineral and every extraction, be it oil and more solid mineral mining. So they grant the license. So one will expect federal government to put more emphasis on making sure that there is a one-stop shop where a miner can come in and say, look, this is where I'm working. This is the kind of situation that I'm facing. Can you come up with a tailor-made systems to provide immediate succor or a palliative so that he can have access to site? So if the roads are not accessible, it impacts on everybody. But if we want to say state government can actually do what the private sectors are doing. Sometimes when they say, oh, we are shut out from mining, I say it's not quite true. You are not shut out from mining. You're only angling to be able to start issuing a license. That is, you want to cream off the coffee. You don't want to get into the nitty-gritty. The nitty-gritty, you can do what the private sector is doing, because you can go and acquire a license, do exploration, and invite investors, or even set up a SPV to manage those assets. For those that want to develop their state, development in Nigeria is very easy.
All right, thank you very much. I've been speaking with a miner, Mr. Patrick Odiegwu. It's been a pleasure really having you on the portfolio this week. We do hope that when next we call you, you're obliged to come.
Oh, always come. I love Nigeria. This is the greatest country in the world.
All right, thank you very much. Bosside Abel is standing by to give us details of happenings, last week in the capital markets. Over to you now, Bosside.
Hello and welcome to the market segment of the program. Monday 12th and Tuesday 13th August 2019 were declared public holidays by the federal government of Nigeria in commemoration of Eid Kabir celebrations. It was a brief trading week as the market opened for 3 days in observance of the break. For the week ended 16th August 2019, the NSE All-Share Index and market capitalization both depreciated by 1.4% to close the week at 26,925.29 and 13.1 trillion naira. All other indices finished lower, with the exception of NSE Premium Index, which appreciated by 0.64%. A total turnover of 726.6 million shares worth 10.4 billion naira in 12,915 deals were traded by investors on the floor of the exchange. The financial services industry led the activity chart with 554.9 million shares valued at 6.4 billion naira traded in 8,376 deals. The conglomerate industry followed with 76.1 million shares worth 86.8 million naira in 621 deals. The third place was the consumer goods industry with a turnover of 29.7 million shares worth 754.9 million naira in 1,855 deals. Trading in the top three equities, Guarantee Trust Bank PLC, Zenith Bank PLC, and Transnational Corporation of Nigeria PLC accounted for 303.1 million shares worth 5.4 billion naira in 2,842 deals. A total of 1,292 units of exchange-traded products, ETPs, valued at 15,283.55 were traded in 7 deals. Also, 4,009 units of federal government bonds valued at 4.1 million naira were traded in 16 deals. 15 equities appreciated in price during the week, 34 equities depreciated, while 119 equities remained unchanged. Now on the global scene, U.S. stocks rebounded on Friday as a retreat bond rally and news of potential German economic stimulus brought buyers back to the equities market, closing the book on a rough week. While all three major U.S. stock averages ended the session higher, they still logged their third consecutive weekly losses, having been rattled since last Monday by growing U.S.-China trade opposition, simmering geopolitical tensions, and signals from the bond market that sparked fears of impending recession. European shares rebounded from 6-month lows, with the Pan-European Stock 600 index over 1% higher. A technical glitch delayed the start of trading of the UK's benchmark FTSE 100 and mid-cap stock indices for almost 2 hours. It was the longest outage of one of the world's top stock markets in 8 years. In Asia, Japan's Nikkei recouped early losses to end 0.06% higher, and Shanghai blue chips rose 0.3% after China's state planners said Beijing would roll out a program to boost disposable income. While in Africa, stocks were mostly mixed. That was the market review for week ended 16th August 2019. The rest of the program continues shortly. I am Boss Sede Abel.
All right, thank you very much, Bosse. And that's the much we can take on this week's episode of your favorite program, The Portfolio, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I'm Chimobi Walter Naji. Endeavor to get back to us on those platforms showing right there on your screen. Till next week, remain blessed.